2026 is the area council election that had the biggest media coverage leading up to the elections. I'm not sure any area council election have had this level of media coverage and the big weeks campaigning like this, like the 2026 election. And that's why I'm still arguing that that number is paltry for the level of media that went into it. If with all of these factors I've given, we could only get a 15% turnout, it's an indictment comparing it to the last election cycle in 2022. Because this one had media, this one had awareness, the electoral laws were signed in place. We all know that this was the first litmus test. And apart from all the dynamics you've cited, all the parameters failed. INEC didn't come up to the party. There was mass rigging. I mean, look at the result sheets.
Were some results defective? Yes, of course you had, like the one in Yangoji that you're talking about. And that's why we are asking for some of the issues that were affected to be resolved. And then go to Kuje, for example, as I tried to summarize, we had the results of the Kuje Area Council coming in late. And we asked why. Because even
this is a very heated and informative analysis of Abuja voting by Oseni, Rufai, and Sumner, Sambo of Arise. Oseni was coming from the APC rigging aspect, the format to which APC used to rig, and Sambo is coming from the antecedents, how this election has been from 2020, 2013, and how the percentage, like 2013 was the highest percentage turnout, voters turnout, which was 16.3%, which PDP won 5, with why NPP won 1. 2016 also was 10%, APC won 5, ABGA won 1. 2019 also 10%, APC won 4, and 2022 was 9.4%, and APC won 3, PDP won 3. In 2026 it was 15%, which APC won 5, why PDP won 1. So Sambo was trying to analyze that Abuja voting mechanism is very dynamic. Oseni is coming from the school of thought that there was a tweak. APC rigged the turnout. They rigged the turnout. So we'll leave you to watch this. And there's another point also that gave me concern about our general election, how ADC lost by shooting themselves on the feet. There were many things ADC did not do which cost them the election and gave advantage to APC. So we'll just watch this video to the end. It's very educative, very enlightening. Even me, I learned a lot from this Sambo, that when he analyzed and broke down the format and the antecedent of Abuja voting. So see you on the other side. We'll analyze it at the end of the video. If you have not subscribed to this channel, what are you waiting for? Let's go there.
Now, let's take a look. I want to look at this from different perspectives, from very complex perspectives. Let's start from the voter turnout. It will interest you and our viewers to actually know that there's an improvement in the turnout of elections in the last FCT election that happened on Saturday. If you look back from now till 2013, in 2013, for example, we had a voter turnout of about 15%. Of about 16.37%. That's the highest since 2013 that we've ever had. Because going into 2016, going into 2019, into 2022, and now 2026, the voter turnout for elections in the FCT area councils have always been poor. For example, in that of 2022, it was 9.4% turnout of registered voters. And this time around, it's about 15% turnout. So this is a remarkable improvement in 2026 compared to the voters that turned out in the 2022 election. Now let's go to the results that have often come out from these elections. From 2013, in 2013, the PDP won 5 of the 6 area councils, and the All Nigeria People's Party, the ANPP then, which is now defunct, won 1 of the area council, and which was Gwagwalada. And then you will now go on to 2016. In 2016, the APC will then go ahead and win 5 of the area councils, being the new governing party in power at the federal level, and then lost one, which was Gwagwalada Area Council. And that was lost to Abuja. Now, you then go on to 2019, and in 2019, we had, a sort of situation that led to the APC winning 4 and losing 6. And then take a look at what then happened ahead. In 2022, these political parties would then go ahead and share 3-3. So the APC won 3, the PDP won 3. And then, of course, you come to 2026, we are seeing the results, where what happened in 2026 is like the exact replica of what happened in 2013. So in 2013, PDP won 5 and lost 1 to the AMPP, and it was Gwagwalada Area Council. And now in 2026, the APC has won 5 and it's lost 1 this time around, Gwagwalada Area Council still, but to the PDP. Now, I'm giving these perspectives so that our viewers will know that the voting patterns in the FCT have always been pretty different. Some of the voters that we have here, especially in Gwagwalada Area Council, have always been very, very sophisticated voters. Take a look at Gwagwalada Area Council, for example. Why did the APC come second there? The APC came second there because they fielded someone who's not an indigenous person in the FCT, someone from Kano State. And party members had told the party that it was going to pay dearly for bringing someone from outside to actually feature. And that person that was brought in with the influence of the former APC national chairman, Abdullahi Ganduje, whom many people do not know that actually served in the FCT administration, sometimes in the 90s. And now, take a look at what happened in Gwagwalada and now replicate it to what happened at the Abuja Municipal Area Council, which is where all attention is with the African Democratic Congress, the ADC. Now, the same thing that happened in the Gwagwalada Area Council is what happened here, that the ADC, will then go ahead and field someone who is not an indigenous person and someone who is having a vice chairperson who is not an indigenous person. And then it was more of like a Christian ticket. And so that may, in one way or the other, have angered people to have voted the way they did in their voting pattern. Now, take a critical look at the presidential election results too that have also come out from the AFCT since 2011. In 2011, Goodluck Jonathan won election in the FCT. In 2015, Goodluck Jonathan won election in the FCT, but Buhari lost, though Buhari won nationally. In 2019, Buhari would then go ahead and still lose the FCT to Atiku Abubakar. And at the 2023 general election, the FCT voters would then cast their vote to a third political party, that's the Labour Party, ditching the PDP, ditching the APC. Now, you would have seen that there's a pattern of voting here. And then at the National Assembly elections, PDP won in 2015, 2011, 2019. But in 2023, these voters in the FCT decided to go with the Labour Party, just like they did in the presidential election. The same thing for the House of Representatives seat. And these two people are non-indigenous people. That is Senator Ireti Kingibe of the Labour Party, who is now of the ADC, and then Honorable Chinedu Joshua Obika of the Labour Party, who is now of the APC. Now, let's turn our attention to why the ADC would have lost the election in the Abuja Municipal Area Council. The Abuja Municipal Area Council is the administrative headquarters of the FCT and Nigeria, because that's where the seat of the presidency is. Now, the FCT, having this area, the AMAC, as a cosmopolitan area, still has villages that are attached to it. Now, the ADC did not go to many of these villages to campaign. There are about 49 villages apart from the city center and districts that we have. And because the ADC was still coming up, the ADC actually lacked a whole lot of structures. Some of the areas that they went to campaign were mostly elite or semi-urban areas. So within the city center, and then semi-urban areas like Nyanya, like Karu, like, some other areas around. And so the voters may not have been properly carried in place by the ADC. And then you see that the ADC itself has not completed putting its structures around the Federal Capital Territory. Ask yourself, how many councillorship candidates did the ADC have in the 6 area councils? We have 858 communities in the FCT. We have 62 wards, political wards, which fielded councillorship candidates. How many of those councillorship candidates were the ADC? So the attention of the ADC was more on the Abuja Municipal Area Council. And the issue here is that this Abuja Municipal Area Council has always been dominated by the PDP and APC. And then you'll see that the person who won the election, Christopher Zaka Mekalongu, is actually a player, if I'm to use football terms, a player who was loaned by the PDP to the APC. Just last year, April, was when he defected from the People's Democratic Party to the All Progressives Congress. And then he will go ahead, face a primary, and won. But what happened to the ADC candidate, Paul Moses? He actually did not stand election at the primary level. It was more of a consensus, because it was more of like the obedient unit of the ADC came together with the support of Peter Obi, and the ticket was handed. So there were already some rivalries within the ADC that a contest was not allowed, and he emerged. And some people kept saying that he wasn't a popular candidate that should have been given the ADC ticket.
Okay, Sumner.
And so if you juxtapose all of this together, you will see that even the APC's candidate that the APC is celebrating that won the election is actually a PDP candidate, because the PDP had always dominated the politics of FCT, and then of recent, there has always been a fight between both parties. So I want to also put this in proper perspective. I know that we may have had issues with the elections, but nonetheless, majority of the people that came out to vote were rural voters, and the voting statistics in the city center has always been like this.
Okay, Sumner, thank you. But 2 things I want to point out that you didn't factor in your analysis. I don't think it's a fair thing to compare the 2022 area council elections with the 2026 area council elections, and I'll tell you why. Sumner, as at February 12th, when the 2022 area council elections were done, Nigeria was still under COVID protocols. COVID protocols were just lifted in April 2022. That's one. Secondly, that was done under the last electoral law, the one that we used from 2019, because it was just on the 25th of February that President Buhari signed the electoral law that at least recognized that we could have a BVAS and a transmission machine. And we all know how enthusiasm jacked up after the signing of that electoral law. And because a lot of people thought it was a game changer until they were disappointed on election day. Thirdly, 2026, and you can dial back some now, 2026 is the area council election that had the biggest media coverage leading up to the elections. I'm not sure any area council election have had this level of media coverage and the big wigs campaigning like this, like the 2026 election. And that's why I'm still arguing that that number is paltry for the level of media that went into it. If with all of these factors I've given, we could only get a 15% turnout, it's an indictment comparing it to the last election cycle in 2022. Because this one had media, this one had awareness, the electoral laws were signed in place. We all know that this was the first litmus test. And apart from all the dynamics you've cited, all the parameters failed. INEC didn't come up to the party. There was mass rigging. I mean, look at the result sheets that we saw in circulation. Look at what happened in polling unit. Look at the case of the curfew. Look at all the background management to be able to act against any formidable opposition in this election. I mean, this is appalling. And these are just some of my submissions as regards this. This is appalling. And yes, I was citing the electoral result of the close to 30% of the general elections. That was what I was citing. But this is appalling.
All right, Rufai.
You can respond.
All right, Rufai. Let me attend to some of the issues you've raised. Yeah, let me attend to some of the issues you've raised there. You talked about the awareness that has been created. Well, it's because of the awareness that was created. That's why you even had this large turnout within the Abuja Municipal Area Council, which is the most cosmopolitan aspect of the Federal Capital Territory. Look at the difference between Christopher Zaka Mekalongu, who is of the APC, who won, and Moses Paul of the ADC, who came second. The result is 40,000 plus for the APC and 12,000 plus for the ADC. Now, what's the difference? About 28,000 votes. Now, look at the results in 2022. In 2022, this same Christopher Zaka Mekalongu had about 19,000 votes, and the person who came second of the APC then in this same Abuja Municipal Area Council had about 13,000 votes. His name is Murtala Karshi. He had about 13,000 votes. So 19 minus 13, that was about 6,000 votes difference. Now, you would have seen, if we are to be pretty objective here, that the turnout in this election is much more than the turnout in the 2022 election. Yes, you mentioned the issues of COVID, but I mean, that was several years after COVID, right? Look at the issues that have come up here. The reason why there was a low interest before is because some of the presidential candidates or the government in power then did not really take Abuja as a place where they could really, show their strength. Because then President Muhammadu Buhari, during a visit by an FCT delegation to him during one of the Eid al-Kabir festivities, had called FCT a necessary evil because of their political voting pattern. But you will see that if we are to be fair to the statistics and figures that we have on ground, the voter turnout this time around is much higher. And then go back to 2013, you would have seen that the voting pattern in FCT has always been that when it comes to area council elections, it's much more left to the locals, to the indigenous people, and all of that. So there's usually not so much national attention. But in reality, this time around, the national attention brought a whole lot of people within the hinterlands and so on. Were some results defective? Yes, of course you had, like the one in Yangoji that you're talking about. And that's why we are asking for some of the issues that were affected to be resolved. And then go to Kuje, for example, as I tried to summarize, we had the results of the Kuje Area Council coming in late. And we asked why. Because even the APC had complained that the results were not coming in on time. It had problems in some area, only for the APC to eventually end up winning the election.
All right.
So these are some of the voting patterns that you always have, and it's just a pure reflection of what happened in 2013, where PDP won 5-1, and in 2026 we are having APC winning 5-1.
You have heard what Rufai and Sambo have analyzed, so it's left for you to deduce which one is the fact and which one is relative to you. But to me, I would say that APC have succeeded in doing that black politics. Then ADC have, I hope they have learned from their naivete and their novice starting. We want them to buckle up so that in 2027 we'll not be talking about the mistakes they make about not coming round the vicinity, leaving some votes untended. APC are very aggressive. They use aggressivity to comb around. ADC is supposed to even borrow that from them. So guys, thanks a lot for tuning in. See you on our next video. Bye.